Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today we are doing not beauty. We're not in my normal pineapple background, but we are talking about mental health. And as yesterday was World Mental Health Day, I figured what a great time to open up, use this platform that I created and talk about my personal journey dealing with my own personal mental health. And I guess health at the same time because, they do go together. Let's just go right into it. First, World Mental Health Day is such an interesting time because I always forget when it is. I feel like I always see on Instagram when people post like, oh, World Mental Health Day. And I'm like, oh, wow, is it really? And then I always hit the double check on Google because I'm like so weird like that. And I'm like, wow, it is. And it's such a bittersweet time because I'll think back and think about all the pain and the sadness, but at the end, now I look back and I'm proud because of how far I've come. And I thought, wow, just wow. I'm at a loss. So let's take it back to where it all started, and that's summer of 2014. So this was an interesting time. I was in grad school, finishing up my semester, and, things were a little different. Things were just feeling different. I wasn't really enjoying the things that I normally do, but it wasn't so drastic enough where I would be like, oh, it's because I'm depressed, the thing is this, for me, it crept up and came on very slowly. It was very insidious, and I think that made it even harder for me to understand because it wasn't like a night and day type thing. It was kind of like slowly progressing. So basically, the semester ends. I move back home. I start working at a hospital that I was working at the time, and I was working almost full time. The hospital was, surprise, surprise, short-staffed, and I was asked to work more, and so I did. And, working, I'm very money motivated. For those that know me, I'm very money motivated. I am happy, to put in those hours, but, it was a little bit more stressful, and I figured that was just because, I didn't expect to. I thought it was something like I wasn't expecting to work full time like that. So I was like, okay, whatever, it's fine. That same summer, my sister was getting married, so I was her maid of honor. I was doing a lot of planning. I was doing planning at the specific time. I remember I was planning her bachelorette party, and I was an RA in college, and I love planning things like those type of things get me really excited. So one of the things I did notice was that I wasn't really getting that same excitement and happiness and joy that I usually get from planning things. And I thought I was just stressed, like work, like finishing up the semester, not being so happy how I did that semester, I just thought, whatever, it's fine. But I remember after work one day, I was in my room in the dark, staring at the ceiling, and my sister comes home. And she looks in my room and goes, what's wrong? What are you doing? And I don't say a lot, but what I do say to her after is that, I think I need to see a psychiatrist. And she looks at me like, what? Psh, no, you don't. Stop, you're fine. And what she didn't know is that was so hard for me to say because that was the first time that I ever verbally spoke about wanting to seek help or ever struggling with my mental health. And, going through teen angst and growing up, you don't expect your sister to say those things to you. So I honestly don't blame her the way that she kind of responded. But I think for me, this was probably one of one of my defining moments in my mental health, because I was so confused about what was going on. I didn't really know how to describe what I was feeling. And finally, when I decided to speak up about it to someone that I trusted and someone that I expected to have my back, she just like brushed it off and was like, yeah, you're fine. And don't worry, my sister now is my biggest supporter, so don't be like, oh my God, like, don't be shocked. Like, no, it's fine. But I think that was one of the hardest times for me in the earlier stages. So, time goes on. I'm trying to plan a bachelorette party. I'm trying to coordinate. We had about like 8 or 9 girls, and it was a little crazy, but we did it. We got through it. Doing work, I noticed I was starting to have very dark thoughts. Like, it would just be easier to be dead. It would be easier to be, not alive. Like, I think, what would the world be without me there? And it didn't really bother me at first because, they were just like, they just seemed like normal thoughts, because growing up, I think I've always had those thoughts, like, oh, like I wish I wasn't alive, or like all those things, going, despite maybe it's teen angst, maybe it wasn't, maybe it was actually depression. Looking back now, obviously, there must have been a reason. And, I was like, oh, whatever, just brush off those thoughts. But then they started becoming more frequent and disruptive. It was to the point where it was distracting me and making me like think about details, like how I would do it, how I would end my life, and what I could possibly do, things like that. Another defining moment in this earlier stage was, I remember going for runs at night, not because I wanted exercise, but because I hoped that a car would hit me while I was running. And I remember specifically after one of my runs, I sat on my deck and I sat in a chair, looked up at the stars, and was just hoping, like, someone just end this, just end it. I know I thought I didn't have that courage to end my own life, because I know how the effect of that would have on my family, on my friends, but more importantly, my family. And, I just like hoped, maybe like running, like it could look like a tragedy, it wasn't my fault, but in the back of my mind, I was running because I wanted to get hit. So the days go on. I'm getting ready for work. This day specifically, I was asked by my manager to come in, and I really didn't want to work this extra shift. It was an extra shift. They were really short-staffed, and they asked, like, can you at least come in for half a day? And I was like, okay, sure. So I did, but this morning was different. I felt especially low. I felt especially alone, and I felt like I couldn't handle it anymore. So I texted my then boyfriend that morning that, today might be the day. And with that, I went to work. Didn't really look at my phone. I didn't want to see what he had to say. I wasn't really looking for someone's opinion at that time. And I was let out at 12. I get a text from him saying, oh, I'll pick you up from work. And I was like, oh, that's weird, because like I take a shuttle to the hospital, and he was like, oh, I'll pick you up, I'll drive you to your car. And I'm like, okay, no problem, that's nice of you. So I get in the car, and he tells me, we need to go to a hospital. And I'm like, what do you mean, why? Like, I just got out of work, I work at a hospital. And he's like, I called the suicide hotline, on you because I was worried. And what I didn't know is that now you need to have a psych eval or else the police will come and get you and then you'll have a psych eval. And he felt horrible, but he knew I was going to be upset, but I think deep down I remember feeling thankful that there was a change. There was an abrupt change in direction for what I thought could have been, what would happen. You know, I look back and I know that I needed help at that time, but I guess I was just so fogged, or like my thoughts were so foggy, or I just didn't know how to get that help, especially with so many different factors, like what I already got put down by my sister, who was someone that I thought was an ally at the time. You know, how was I going to make excuses for why maybe I was going to see a doctor? You know, it was just, I needed that kind of like that push. So I go to a hospital nearby, and I was there for, I would say, 5 or 6 hours. It was such a interesting experience because of what I presented as a psych eval with suicidal ideations. Everything was taken from me. I needed to be in a gown. I was mixed with people that were there for a whole types of reasons. Whenever I had to explain my story to different healthcare professionals, it was the resident, the attending, and the nurse, and I had to say my story multiple times. I will never forget the way one of the nurses talked to me when I was telling her, and she was like, "You don't look depressed." Well, I never wanted to leave a room so quickly in my life. Yeah. So, oh my God. Anyway, so I finally go home. I'm worrying about the copay. My then boyfriend, still sitting there in the waiting room, brought enough money because he knew that was going to be a factor and that I'm very money conscious. He knew that was something I was going to worry about. So that was really nice of him. And I go home kind of confused, like, what just happened? Kind of in just denial, like, what happened? What did I just do? What do I need? You know, they actually let me go home, which a lot of people that I tell this to are really surprised about, that they let me go home that day instead of being admitted. And I was given the option to be admitted at that day, and I chose not to because at that particular hospital, it wasn't like sunshines and daisies. The attending warned me, they're like, it's not going to be like one of those happy-go-lucky psych hospitals. And I'm like, okay, like, no thank you, I don't need that. So I went home. I was allowed to do outpatient follow-up. So that opened up a new can of worms. Like, okay, how do I tell my parents that I need to go to see a psychiatrist? But you know, it's a really easy way to do that. Get mail from the hospital regarding your ER visit. So the day I was supposed to leave for my sister's bachelorette party, a lovely letter comes in the mail, and I didn't want my mom to find it. I figured I might as well tell her first. So I'm holding the letter, you know, I try to tell her, so like this happened and I ended up in the hospital, and now I need to go see a psychiatrist. And she was like, you know, immigrant parents, Asian culture, like, what are you talking about? Like, you're fine. You just need God. You need to pray. You need to be stronger. Like, you can, like, this is in your head. Like, you're fine. Like, just stop. Just like, get yourself together. You know, all that. And needless to say, it was in a very emotional morning. I wasn't going to go to my sister's bachelorette party, but we finally got us to kind of scramble, get the pieces together, and I left that Friday for her party. And that weekend was especially hard. You know, I was kind of traumatized from what just happened at the hospital. I needed to act normal in front of 9 girls and act happy, and I had a good time that weekend, but I do remember points when my depression and anxiety really took over. And one moment in particular I will never forget is at a dueling piano bar, which, for those who don't know, there's 2 pianos and they like play music back and forth, and you can like ask and request songs on a napkin about what song you want with, and then you slip like $1 or $2 like to like tip the pianist. So we were there, and I kind of was tired. I didn't really want to be there, but you know, the girls wanted to go. I also wanted to go see what a dueling piano bar was like. So we went, and I remember hearing, one of my triggers for my anxiety was hearing people have fun in the background, but me not feeling like I was having fun, or I felt like I was like, it almost like translated to me that they were like taunting me or having like trying to rub it in that they were having fun. And that made me like feel dizzy, made me feel like I couldn't feel my feet, I couldn't feel my hands. I just like needed to go home, and I was freaking out. I was crying. I told my sister I have to go outside, and she came with me. I was hysterically crying, like hyperventilating, and just I didn't know like what was going on, and she was nice enough to come back home to the hotel with me. And just having those moments where, you know, knowing that I sometimes, depending on my situation, I couldn't really control my feelings, was scary. You know, it made me really nervous to go outside and go socialize, you know. So fast forward, we go home. I go to my first psychiatrist appointment, and he was great for the first couple visits. You know, he started me on medication. He explained what depression was from a biological and behavioral standpoint to my mom and my sister. I could tell my mom and my sister were having a little bit more of an understanding, and that was great. I thought that was a huge step in the direction. And for some reason, I thought, like, yeah, like, I have my meds, I am getting help, like, things should be better, right? Like, instantly. And I don't know what it is, but that was really my expectation at the time. And I look back and I'm like, wow, so silly, so foolish. But that was my expectation. And sorry, my memory card filled up. I really didn't expect to talk for this long, but I just kept remembering like very key moments that I wanted to share with you all. But sorry, so back to getting my first medication, just thinking, you know, this is gonna be it. Like, you know, I'll be better like right now. And you know what they don't tell you is that all medications don't work for everyone. Your body will get used to that medication. You know, you'll need maybe another medication. And you know, the irony is that a soon-to-be pharmacist is telling you that. I didn't know that, but you know, I was just focusing on one thing at the time. So I want to fast forward to 1 year after that ER visit, and this was another really hard time for me because, you know, dosage changes of medications, adding maybe another one because it helps to make your other medication work better, you know, I can understand those things. But one of the next issues that I didn't expect was finding it so hard to find a therapist that you could open up to and you could be comfortable with. I, to this day, have not found a therapist that I could speak my mind with or feel comfortable enough with. I've tried a lot of different things. I've tried therapy groups. I've tried I forget the name of this type of therapy, but it was a more structured like learning class. There were worksheets, and it was basically learning about how to be more aware of yourself and knowing when you're getting to that point of no return, and I thought that was probably the most helpful. I don't know if that was just a temporal thing. It was one of the first therapy style things that I tried at the time, so maybe that was helpful. But when I initially was diagnosed, they told me to try to get a therapist and a therapy group, attack it from two different types of standpoints, and I just never found that therapist that I felt comfortable with. And you don't really expect that. You see in movies, you see that people, find a therapists, and then, it's like it works, or, they can just like start opening up to them. I know it's stupid to compare life to a movie, but, you kind of expect that to feel that way. But it was just, I just always found it so uncomfortable, to be honest, and to be, myself. So I think I went through 3 different therapists to the point where I kind of just gave up. And I remember my sister hating that I would cancel my therapy appointments because she's like, Belle, you need to go. And I'm like, but it just doesn't feel helpful. And, I don't know if that was me being stubborn or the truth, but I finally, I think at the end of one of the semesters, I just stopped going, and I didn't reschedule for when the semester started up again. But I think that's because I kind of found what felt therapeutic for me. And at that time, for me, it was just writing in a journal. I called it my gratitude journal, and I wrote down the day and what good things happened. And, it could have been something as small as this person held the door for me even though I was super far away from it, or it was sunny, it was perfect weather today, or something like that. It was just, I just wanted to keep focusing on those positives, because at that time it just seems so easy to be bogged down by the negatives. So I think that was one of my next biggest issues. And on top of that, even a year after feeling like I was making progress, I was having this uphill curve, I was still having maybe 3 episodes per week of being in bed, unable to move, no appetite, ignoring my phone or turning it off after saying something very inappropriate, like I'm going to kill myself or something like that, and then turning off my phone. But my sister and my then boyfriend trying to contact me and make sure I'm okay, understanding that that's not all right. That's not okay to just say something like, I'm going to kill myself, and then turn off your phone. It took a while. It's just crazy. You would think, looking back to when I thought oh yeah, one medication I'll be fine, I'll be cured. Then a year later, still having such incredible issues. On top of that, just being so frustrated that nothing felt like it was working. Nothing was helping. I was just constantly struggling. It was really wearing me down. And it was hard. It was hard. I remember that the first year to 2 years was really hard. So fast forwarding to 2 years after that ER visit, one of the biggest memories of my struggle trying to get through depression was a family vacation that I took to the Finger Lakes in New York. I was excited to go. It was one of the first vacations that my then boyfriend was able to come on, even though it was a huge family vacation with like my extended family friends. I was just like super pumped. I was excited. I had really high expectations for the weekend that we were gonna like spend the weekend together, like hang out, like go, I don't know, do lake stuff. I don't even know what that means, but like, explore the cute town, whatever. And that first day, we didn't really hang out. That was kind of towards also the end, kind of like the downfall of our relationship. So it was kind of like a rocky place emotionally, speaking, with in terms of the relationship. But at the same time, I just wasn't myself. Obviously I was still struggling. I was happier watching Netflix in the bedroom. I remember I was really into this like architectural Netflix show, and while everyone was hanging out in the backyard or just doing their own thing, enjoying the outside, I was cooped up inside and I wanted to be alone. And I remember I needed my sister. She was also there, and I told her I was struggling. There was this one very key night that I was in the car with my sister and my then boyfriend, and we were talking, and I was frustrated. I was telling them I wanted to kill myself. Like, tonight I want to jump out of the car, lay on the street, and just be done with it. I was adamant, and to the point where my sister started crying, was like, don't open the door, like, please don't open the door. And nothing that anyone was telling me was helping me. It wasn't, nothing was feeling clear. I felt just immense hatred for myself, hatred for my situation, frustration. It was so, thinking back, it was so much pain. And eventually when I was more calm, I agreed to go inside and just go to sleep. And then the next day, I was better. I woke up, I didn't have those suicidal ideas in my head as much. So, we go home and, just trying to go through life, telling my psychiatrist what happened, get a new med added. It seemed like every time I felt like I had another episode, here's a new medication. And then what was horrible about this next medication was that it made me gain 10 pounds in a month. So not only did I struggle to keep my mood stable, I looked like a freaking balloon. And maybe I'll insert a picture here just so you can laugh with me, because I was huge. And it was crazy because I was like not eating more than I usually did, but I was gaining weight like crazy. And the irony is that in the beginning, one of my first couple medications I was on made me lose weight. So I looked like I was the skinniest I've ever been. I looked like a twig. And then now, 2 years later, I look like a Oompa Loompa. And it was just, I was like so frustrated, like, what is going on? Like, what, like, why can't, but like, I remember always just thinking, like, why can't I be normal? Why can't I have normal thoughts like everyone else? Why can't I look forward to tomorrow the way that everyone else does? Or so it felt, I just felt, again, alone, struggling, and nothing was working, or it wasn't that I was impatient. I was frustrated. I just wanted to be better. And I remember thinking exactly that, like, I just want to be better. So I think now, like 3 years after the ER visit now, I'm starting to find stability. I finally moved my psychiatrist to a psychiatrist at school that I ended up loving. She was fantastic. She completely, after a month or two of my old regimen that made me blow up like a balloon, she changed it, stopped everything, changed it, tapered off everything, changed me to something else. And I've been on that medication since, maybe an increase in dose, but I've been on that medication. medication seemed to be working. There was stability there. I was kind of happier with where I was. I kind of was understanding that, maybe therapy sessions with a one-on-one therapist just was not going to work out right now. I was finding peace in that. And, it carried me through till now. I think, so over 4 years later, we're speaking now, I still very much experience instability. Admittedly, I have much more great days than bad now. Before it was the complete opposite, but now, it's much more stable. Some sources of instability in my mood maybe are caused by one, which is usually one of my issues is forgetting to take your medication. And I know it sounds so silly, like, oh, you just take your medication, like, what's wrong? Like, like, sometimes you wake up late, sometimes you're running out of the house for work, sometimes you forget to throw the medication bottle in your pocket, like, just little things like that. When it would catch up 2 days in a row, on that second day or pushing to the third day, I would feel it. And I remember, like, I think just like last week or 2 weeks ago, like, you just would feel so, like, tired, so easily irritable, I think it's crazy. I remember when I first started my medication, my mom's first question to the doctor was, for how long will she be taking this medication? And I kind of looked at her, I was like, come on. And now 4 years later, we've gone a long way. But it just kind of reminds me how kind of dependent I am on the medication. And, I used to find that this was a moment of insecurity or of embarrassment. But, the same way that someone might need their antihypertensive medication, or someone might need their pantoprazole for their GERD, it's the same thing. You have to just, it took 4 years to get me here, to get me to a place where, I accepted that the depression and anxiety doesn't define me, but it's just a part of who I am. And, I have to be responsible about that and deal with it appropriately. So, some key things that I think I just want to highlight as we come to the end of the video is that this is going to be a work in progress. You're never going to know exactly what you need. You have to be flexible. You have to be understanding. And that kind of brings me to my second point. Be kind to yourself. Please be kind to yourself. You have to be able to forgive yourself if you have another episode, if you aren't having a great day, if you forget your medication, you have to be kind to yourself. Just understand, like, yes, I made a mistake. Yes, I'm experiencing this. How am I going to fix it in the future? What am I going to do to try to prevent this from happening again? What can I do to be proactive? You just, as long as you're being forgiving and trying to better yourself, I think that's really something that has really helped me in my recovery or healing process. And lastly, try to surround yourself around people that make you your happiest self. If that means removing toxic people from your life, then do it. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. I think one of the hardest things for me was trying to, someone that helped save my life, they're not in my life anymore right now, and that was for the best though. We're much happier our separate ways, and, now my family is my core. My current boyfriend has been nothing but amazing for me, and My friends, they are so supportive. I think just surrounding yourself with those people that love you for you. And if you don't even have those people, just it has to come from yourself. You have to love the work of art that you are. You're unique, you're human, and you're struggling. But being open to help, open to bettering yourself, that's huge. So if you have a friend or someone in your life that is, they might not be crying out for help, but if they even say the slightest thing, like, I'm just really not feeling well, like, just ask, like, oh, like, what's going on? Sometimes they just need that. I know a lot of people that need help, but they're not open to it. They don't want the help. And it's so frustrating for the people around them, and it's so hard to watch, So if someone on their mental health journey is actually asking and voicing that they want help, please don't brush them off. Please be thankful and take advantage of that, because that's a blessing, That's a blessing. I'm thankful, and I know my sister has said this a lot too. She's thankful that I wanted help. I think I just talked for a whole ton, and I exposed a lot of the things I struggle with and my experiences, and just wanted to close with that you're always welcome to talk to me, to message me. You can DM me on Insta if you want to just talk. I'm not a counselor of any sorts. I can only offer a listening ear and some advice, but if you feel like you're alone, you're definitely not. And I am thankful that I'm at a place now that I can talk about this and not be bawling, because I feel like I've finally made it to on the other side. I'm at a place where I'm functional, productive, and managing my depression and anxiety well. So I thank you all for sticking to the end. I would love nothing more than for you to maybe comment below anything that you took away from this, or anything else any advice or any suggestions, things that maybe help you, or things that you find therapeutic. If any of this resonated with you, let me know, and I'll catch y'all next time. We're going to do more makeup probably, but thanks for being here. I'll see y'all later. Bye.